And we are live.
We are live. Not at the Hive episode. What are we at? 175.
Wow.
75, yeah.
Nice even number.
Mhm.
Well, not even, but in the quarters, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to this episode of Live at the Hive. I am Dan Adelko.
Matt Stefanich.
I'm Justin Maciel.
And today we're talking about some fun marketing stuff that we've been doing for quite some time. You may be familiar with the concept of marketers talking, you've got to use video. And what we're talking about today is, in fact, social video, which is, relatively newer trend, but definitely taking off, especially with the rise of the likes of TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to be showing you why it's important and how you can do it. Yep. And also the use of memes in your marketing communication strategy on social as well. So we've got some good examples, and hopefully you guys will get something out of it. Hello, April, Yvonne, Chad, Matthew, Sushita, May.
Hey guys,
welcome.
Welcome. So I think what we can do is then we can kick off with some of the what's new for this week. We have a few articles here that actually really tie into what's working really nicely this week. But the first article that we have is from Marketing Dive. It's titled "Brands Could Lose Fickle Gen Zers Over Poor Digital Experiences." And the article kind of dives in talking about, how Gen Zers have a different experience with online modules and online presences than other generations do, right? They grew up on it, kind of makes sense. But they have some really good kind of trends in here talking about the loyalty of Gen Zers when they do have a really nice digital experience, and the real kind of consequences for businesses when, they don't have a nice, digital storefront or accessible website or really slow experiences, right?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, looking at it, it's I don't know if that's actually necessarily true, that they don't necessarily have an undying loyalty to a brand, but I don't think anyone has an undying loyalty.
Yeah.
In very rare cases.
Yeah, I find that's across the board that's really died, that like true loyalty to a brand. People really jump nowadays.
Yeah, you've got a few. I think Tesla's one, Apple would be another, right? But they have great experiences. I think a lot of it is the fact that, if you're not creating good digital experiences across social and across your website and being consistent, I think you're gonna lose a lot of people these days.
Yeah.
And Gen Z's just being maybe a little bit more fickle about that because they're native, right? Mm-hmm. They're really truly the first generation that does not know any different.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, they grew up with Facebook, for example. So they look at that as like old social.
Yeah. If it's not working for them, then, they're just off to the next thing. Right. So,
yeah, exactly. So interesting. So definitely worth a read and looking at that and thinking about whether or not your digital strategies are in line.
Absolutely, for sure. Next up, we have some big news from Facebook. So last week we talked about how Facebook was getting rid of the, I think it was the business manager at least. But now that
it was analytics.
Yes, it was the analytics. Sorry, don't panic.
Business manager is not going anywhere, folks.
No, but if anything, they added some new stuff. So this week, what they're actually launching a new option now within the business suite to schedule out stories beforehand within your social calendar. So this is a really nice feature because beforehand, without using any kind of third parties or anything like that, it was really difficult to put together or schedule up a story content calendar on your pages for Facebook and Instagram, right? So this kind of opens it up a little bit nicely for people. Also, they've announced a new way that you can get page recommendations. So underneath pages, you can actually see now if there's like a little sponsored post, you can see restaurants or businesses that relate to that business. So you can kind of go through, consume some more content. This would be really nice for, local businesses and things like that, how businesses kind of build these communities together. And then lastly, they just have one where they have a few more ad options, right? So now we have some more conversion leads and lead forms that kind of tie into Messenger a little bit, which is actually really nicely. And then they're also adding, when we talked about this on Google a few weeks ago, but new CTA ads where people can just call you straight up, which is actually going to be a nice feature. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, some nice stuff in Facebook Suite.
Yeah, 100%. And what TikTok is really driving through all of the social networks is an increased, in this case, their stories, but the introduction of Reels on Instagram, Shorts on YouTube, and then the ability to promote and use those vehicles to promote. I think this is good news for business, because what our experience is, for example, is lead gen ads on Facebook are extremely effective when you're not having to drive somebody to a landing page and then to 2 or 3 clicks out. You can definitely capture leads really quickly. Call only campaigns on Google and Microsoft have always been very powerful, especially for service-based businesses. So if you got a service-based business where, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, any kind of a repair service, you can really capture, you can really capture the customer in that moment of action. So I think that's really helpful. And again, we're going to be talking about this a little bit today. The important thing is that I think a lot of businesses are stuck with this notion of Google search ads, and certain formats of Facebook ads, but you're going to get better visibility and better engagement by using these things like stories and, the engaging media that's very quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of get off that point, a lot of people, these days, a lot of people are using these ad platforms, and it's a little bit stuffed in there with, competition and things. So people are trying to find ways to kind of work around that and still keep their ROI, right? So one way that entrepreneur.com, they released an article about content marketing, and it says why referrals from friends are still key in the digital marketing world. So just kind of like off the top, the article really talks about how the authors struggle with Google ads, Google display ads, ROI. So he kind of goes into how they kind of deviated from that and put a little bit more of their budget into their referral programs. Kind of like how we talked about last week, right? How you can kind of get these really nice referral programs. And within the article, they had some really great success. So this is a little bit of a heavier read for people, but a really good case study for sure.
Yeah, I think this is what's old is new again. Just because the medium has changed, that the fundamentals, the core fundamentals don't change about retail and sales. People want to work with people or buy from people that they like. People trust their friends' recommendations. And, I think one of the things that Google and Facebook and all of these ad platforms have really instilled in some people's minds is that I can just throw the ad up on these big ad platforms, reach a ton of people, and sell a whole bunch of things. And it doesn't work. It simply will not work. You'll go broke and you'll be very disappointed. And this is when we hear, oh, Google ads don't work or Facebook ads don't work. And where you're not implementing it with a thorough strategy, or it's not well thought out, right? Or your product sucks or your offer sucks.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of some people, using ads as more of a way to get reach than conversions, right? It's you really have to come back down to the campaign and the conversion strategy.
Yeah, and branding is important, right? I mean, people need to know who you are. It's as simple as that. If they don't know who you are, they're not going to buy from you.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah. And make sure it's a good impression.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, we were just talking about that with the Gen Zers, right? It's so important now.
Yep, absolutely.
Alrighty. I think that's what we have this week for what's new. I think there was a few more articles that the bees will definitely scatter throughout chat. But this week we have a jam-packed what's working for you guys. So some really good stuff coming in here.
Let's go. Let me just do this. All right. So yes, like we mentioned, we're talking about social videos and memes, and how you don't have to be Steven Spielberg to create these, and you can have fun with it. and you'll create some really great experiences, and that's really the goal here. So why don't we just run through what we're going over here?
Yeah, so for this week, what we're going to be discussing is why people should be using these videos and memes on their social media, and how you can kind of really work them into your strategy if your brand doesn't really call for straight up humor posts or things like that. We can talk about a little bit more benefits of, why people post these and why engagement is so important on these videos and these memes that we share. A couple more kind of social media tactics we'll be diving into, and some really great examples that we'll show you guys, as well as some of the creation tools that we use. And then just some kind of real life videos and some meme explanations. And a lot of these things you guys can, anyone listening to Live at the Hive, you guys can get started on these right away. So it will be a really good stuff.
Yeah. Excellent. So let's look at, we can look at some stats. I also want to talk a little bit about, I haven't actually had a chance to kind of go through this. Okay.
No, it's okay. We can just start on, I don't think we have to spend too much time on this, but just kind of like the importance of it. 72% of customers would rather learn about a product or service by way of video. 100% mobile device is mobile video consumption. It rises 100% every year. 1.5 people are more likely to watch videos on their mobile phones. So it really kind of shows how people are starting to consume content on their phones.
Yeah.
And how frequently.
Exactly. And I think it goes without saying, I think you can look at TikTok and, and I mean, YouTube as well, right? Like the power of video and how engaging it is and how it can evoke emotion and it can evoke interest. It's so much more engaging than a static post to read. Yep. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what makes social video different than traditional. Now we're calling
imagine that, eh?
YouTube traditional for it's more of a format difference. And how you break down your content into snackable, consumable items. Like TikTok's a perfect example of that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, social video, and we are gonna talk a little bit and show some examples. Unfortunately, we don't have audio streaming through because of our current setup, but you'll get the idea. The power of social video comes through because you're connecting with your potential customers or your community on their platforms. And I think this is an important distinction for social. You'll hear content creators talk a lot about this, but people really have a feeling that like their YouTube channel is their platform. Their TikTok account is their platform. They take a personal ownership over it. And you'll see sometimes if you force ads into people's feeds, they can get upset. Some people get upset about like, why is this on my social? Right.
Yep.
So there is a more personalized experience where you as a brand have the ability to reach somebody, but they have the ability to reach right back because it's a one-to-one. It's a one-to-one experience. And I think that a lot of marketers, creatives, and people in business have this notion that there's a broadcast mentality about this. Like but it isn't.
Yeah,
right?
And people get caught up in, maintaining like a one-way communication channel with their customers, where it's just like, I'm going to pump you up a whole bunch of content and you're just going to love it and consume it. But that's not what social media is. It's sharing things with each other, interacting with one another. No one goes on Facebook to, search up like a whole bunch of businesses or things like that. You want it to come into your feed naturally. You want a natural stream of content that people can connect with and engage with, right?
Yeah. So like Matt, I know you're a big Twitter guy.
Yeah.
Justin, what's your go-to social network?
TikTok and Instagram.
Yep.
So they're even right now.
I've been dragged into TikTok too within the past couple months, I will say.
TikTok is extremely engaging. I've got quite a few myself.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you how fast TikTok has grown, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
There's dad talk, there's tech talk. There's, it's not just 16-year-old girls dancing. That's still a part of it. But I actually think that's going to adjust itself.
You can definitely find your own home on it, right? For sure. And kind of get content. The thing with TikTok too is that it can get so hyperly targeted towards you that even if it's like an ad or something on your feed, it's something that you want, right? I feel that like like the more time people spend on TikTok, the more that they're going to get targeted for stuff that they actually find interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing with TikTok, I think that's very important to discuss is that the organic capability, you can have no followers and you can have one TikTok. And if you get into that For You page because you've hit the algorithm in the right way or it likes what you're doing, you can get millions upon millions of views, which you cannot do on Instagram. It's simply it just doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen easily. I'm not going to say it never happens, but it doesn't happen easily. And so there's a distinct opportunity there with specifically TikTok. And it's a great way. You see a lot of creators and you see a lot of people going over to TikTok, repurposing their content, and they have distribution to millions of more people that have never, they wouldn't have had that opportunity for. And we see some great real estate agents doing amazing things and actually really interesting things, and accountants explaining finance and taxes, and mathematicians explaining how to do algebra, like with a whatever 30-45 second TikTok, not even.
The one thing I do notice is like a lot of the time they'll have huge webinars or huge long webinars, and they'll grab the snippets and then put them on TikTok. And it's something that we talk about all the time is repurposing your own content. And you see it work really well on a platform like TikTok.
Yeah, and I think that too. I don't want to get too much into like, this isn't a TikTok live by any means.
No,
it's a video.
But I do like how, even with like comments and things like that, if people leave a comment on your video, you can video reply to it, right? And maybe that video can go viral too, because a lot of people have those questions, right? It's a nicer way to engage with people. And I think that's one of the reasons why we use social video is to, connect with your customers, entice people to create conversation and propel conversation, right?
Well, and the important part about social video is it has to be entertaining. You can't just take a notion. You have to catch them within the first 2 to 2 seconds. We'll show you some techniques. There's some simple techniques that you can use with social video to get that attention right away. And it propels conversations. And the more entertaining and the either more humorous or informative, you don't have to just be funny, right? You can be extremely informative. I was today years old when I learned something. And then we're going to show the lucid. I don't know if this one's linked. Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. So here's a really great example of a social video for a company called Lucid Chart. Now we don't have, it's too bad that the audio won't pipe through. But we will drop the link. I think they're Benny B. Maybe you can drop the link to the Lucid Chart YouTube video for everybody so they can have a look at this. Oh, wait, we've got a good one here from May. I posted a TikTok having 30 followers. It got 1 million. You did?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's actually really good.
I'm going to have to check that one out. Even though you may not have a large following, your content can still really do well. You should now, May, have 250,000 followers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just joking. I've got like, I have no, I got to work on my TikTok for sure.
Yeah.
But let's play this bad boy.
So it just kind of goes through the different types of doggos and things like that.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with it, the doggo meme has been flying all over Reddit for for a long time, actually. I don't think that's a new one. But he's going through all the different kinds of doggos. But the important thing to keep in mind here, and I'll kind of give the punchline away, is that this video is created using, this is a commercial effectively for Lucid Chart, which is like Vizio. And you can see what's happening here is subtly keeping your attention. We watched it as a team and half the team was laughing the entire time. So you're getting the attention. This video has something like 5 million views. Yeah. And my understanding is it was the marketing manager at Lucid Chart who did this by himself. So no creative was required. There you go. And Lucid Chart diagrams done right.
Yeah.
So great example. There we go. I had to turn down my headphone volume because I can hear the video.
Yeah. And even with like a video like that, like it's I'd probably say it's like maybe a minute long, if that, in entirety. But even with that, you can always cut it down into certain like sizes, right? So you can kind of post it on TikTok or Instagram Reels or anything.
You can, and with various platforms, and we're going to show you some video platforms. Even if you do not have to be a video expert here, you don't even have to have Final Cut or Premiere. You don't have to have anything. You can use promo.com as one. There's several, but the idea being is that those platforms can actually automatically repurpose your videos into square 9:16, which would be TikTok format and Reels format. It can do all of that. So really what you're thinking of is, how can I catch somebody within a 1 minute period or less with a very punchy, and if you watch the way that the blocking goes, it's got to be very, very punchy. That's what you want. You want to keep that punch and keep it moving while you're making your social videos here. So let me just get out of here.
Yeah, April has a comment here too about her TikTok experience. She said that she did one of things that her husband does and it got 3K views. It's a fun platform, lots of different communities that you can reach with your videos. Yeah, for sure. Just like we were saying, how it can get so hyper targeted, right? That you could be getting things locally within your feed after a couple hours of using it. You can kind of hone down and see where you are. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly right. Yeah, you got to think about the audience that you're trying to attract and reach, and relatively for you, what's a benefit. So if you have a cake business, I mean, get going on those TikToks. If you're making cakes in high speed, cooking on TikTok is crazy. And what I tend to do is I tend to save them to my favorites, because it can be a little tricky on TikTok if you don't remember who it is to kind of scroll back, because that For You page and the stream changes so much.
Yeah, it really disappears.
Yeah, it does. So you hit that save it to your phone or save it to your favorites. Don't forget that. So let's talk a little bit about memes quickly. Depending on who you talk to, memes are either beloved and understood to be incredibly powerful, or they're completely dismissed as something childish. Where do you guys fall on that spectrum?
Yeah, I think that it's just within your humor. Everyone has different types of humor, right? So some people love memes and they just consume all, and some people a little bit more picky about what kind of memes they like, right? So,
yeah. I do find humor is one of the strongest sales tactics, in a sense. Like when you laugh, that really gets you, it really hones in. And just like the word of mouth thing, you're going to show your friends, you're going to be like, this is really funny. And that's kind of, you stretch it out that way. So I find that's the one good thing about memes. When you can find that humor element, is that's when you can hone that in.
Yeah.
Good.
So the interesting thing about memes is it was a CIA study done in, I believe the 80s or 90s. I'm not exactly sure when. It might have even been in the 70s. Where what memes actually are is it crosses cultural divides and it affects numerous generations, and it's something that's intended to be highly shareable. This was something recognized by the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, as being something that can sway massive public opinion. Whether it's politics or a product or media.
Imagine.
Now, I guess this is the fundamental point I'd like to make about why memes are so important, is we just saw a president that was elected back in 2016, in no small part due to how memes were spread across the internet. Whether they were true or whether they were fake kind of isn't the point. But the point is that these things are powerful because they reach into people's psyche, right?
Yeah.
And they share it, and they get upset about it, they laugh about it, they cry, whatever it might be.
People are protective over the memes that they share too, right? It's kind of like, say if like someone shares a meme with you and like it's kind of like that's not funny or like that's not true at all, they get really upset. And people have like the content that people interact with, they form relationships with these contents and these creators, right?
Well,
so
and you can also take the opposite approach on the memes, and from a political perspective, is that can be used to incite anger.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
It's evoking emotion, for sure. So just a couple of things. I'll feature Stacey's here. Content marketing is all about connecting with your audience on an emotional level. All marketing should be. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Using humor behind memes or videos is a winning combo. Yeah. So I think one of the things is what these things allow. My previous job had some very tense moments, and we used memes to lighten the mood. My HR manager loved them.
Yep.
Nice. We tend to in our Slack channel communicate by GIFs, so there's that.
Yes.
We have great taste in gifts if you guys ever want to know.
But the thing with memes here, there's a couple of examples up on the screen. So one of a really good example, and smart brands and smart businesses embrace the meme, right? Because they understand what it is. It's just virality. And Bird Box, you know, whether it was a great movie or a terrible movie, I thought it was okay. Doesn't really matter, but these memes of Sandra Bullock and the kids, like they're still all over the place. I think they've still been around years later. But Netflix, what did they do in 24 hours? They had 70 million views of Bird Box.
Oh, I remember. But it was I remember everyone was watching it. Everyone was talking about it, and everyone was consuming the memes about it, right?
Yep, exactly. And then another great example here is Chipotle. Chipotle uses memes all the time. You can reuse memes. We've got some examples of that, and pair them with your social content to really connect with the community, because people are going to look. It's kind of like subredditors and people that live on subreddits, right? It's like,
yeah,
those are my people. You share that meme. Again, I don't want to get political at all, but there's a certain group of people, right, wrong, or indifferent, that do connect with Pepe the Frog, right? I mean, but just to use that counter example of how powerful these things are.
Yeah, I think people adopt these and make of them what they want of them, right? So it's kind of, you know, people find something that's nice, something that's funny with everyone, and then they kind of put their own little kind of twist on it, which is not a bad thing. You know, creating content and putting your own little twist on it, you can get some really great engagement from people.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a video that we did for a local managed services company, and what they were doing is, you know, the thing that they're one of their major target customers were actually IT management that needed extra support, right? So obviously, if you've ever done anything in IT, there's tons of jokes about, you know, the users that you've got doing things. So let's have a look at this. Again, this is more on the social video side. TikTok, by the way, so this is heavily captioned because on most video platforms, with the exception, I guess, of YouTube as well, you're going to run in mute, right? So understanding that that's okay. TikTok is actually the opposite, where it's pretty much always running in audio. I don't think anybody mutes a TikTok. So
no.
Okay, so let's just run this, and I'm going to talk about it while it's going. Okay, so a little bit of a hook to share a joke. That's why the baboons were there. Okay, so you can't go to Best Buy and pick up a Wi-Fi router. Trying to keep it as snappy as possible. Throwing in a little joke. Okay. Everybody complains about having to update passwords and use strong passwords.
Yeah.
So this is appealing to the IT sector. This was just a lucky video that I found of this guy smiling because he's emailing himself confidential documents to a public Gmail. There's and again, you can see there's a task switching from the objection to the answer, and then something that would make people in IT laugh. And then at the end, nearer to the end of the video here, is actually poking into a potential fear that they know that, like, do you have a complete disaster recovery plan? Does that exist for you? Right?
Yeah, for sure. It's using that hook to really kind of hyper target these people, and it's using humor that only IT people or people within that sector would really truly understand, right? So we can kind of see how that can kind of work to our benefit when we're posting videos on social.
Yeah, and I think when you're making these types of videos, you want to appeal to everybody. So there's a universal humor or a universal message, and then specific things for specific individuals, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, you don't need to be a video editor in order to make these things work, right?
Yeah, no, there's tools that are available to us that are great for creating videos like these. Few off the top of my head, I think Promo. Yep, here we go. We have a few here. Yeah. Promo, that's a really great one. Canva's always adding new stuff as well, and I've been using it a lot more lately. So definitely Canva's a great option. Final Cut as well. It's a little bit more kind of technical, I think. With a couple, a little bit more customizable options. And then we have TikTok, of course, and then Subtitle. I don't think I've used Subtitle before.
Yeah, subtitles really good. It's mainly just for closed captionings. I would
Yeah.
mainly just use that on little snippet videos, not anything kind of big like a YouTube, the traditional stuff, I guess. But keeping it on the socials where a video would usually be played on mute, it works really well.
What
Yes,
what you
pretty-
like currently using, Justin? For these?
I use Adobe Premiere Rush, and then I'm Promo a lot. Yeah, Premiere Rush is obviously a bit more out, but it is a lot like Promo, where it's very user friendly, kind of making short snippets rather than doing like a full editing of a video.
Yeah, you can get bogged down in editing, and there's a different workflow. Obviously, these tools do not replace,
Adobe Premiere.
Adobe Premiere, well, Final Cut and Adobe Premiere and DaVinci Resolve. I mean, these are all three of those are used in movie productions, etc. Right?
Yeah, I definitely recommend Promo though. Promo works really well. They have a lot of good stock video photography too. If you want to have any kind of background video, so you don't have to really shoot your own video either. So it really is user friendly in that sense.
And cost and time effective, right?
Yes.
Like you've got to be pragmatic about, really the idea is understanding the audience and telling the story. And you see TikTokers and you see YouTubers doing this all the time with pretty modest editing that goes into it. You obviously get more elaborate, but.
Yeah, and I think that it depends on if we're going to be talking about the quality of edits and the quality of videos. Sometimes other platforms can be a little bit more forgiving of content that's not as nicely produced, right? Like on TikTok, for example, you have some really great TikTok videos where they're doing really fancy cuts. People are like switching like poses and things like that really quickly. But you also have some really like viral videos where not much effort has gone into creating their video, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you know what, I think some of the feedback that would come if we were talking to a client would say, well, we don't have anything to talk about, so because we're B2B or something like that. But here's a good example. Oh wait, did I just do that? We're not going to do the Payless one yet. That's a little bit more elaborate. Oh, I guess that one was
it
not
the video comic beside it.
Maybe let me just go back here. See if I can get that. Oh, there. Okay, so this one here. And again, so TNR Doors, they make industrial doors.
He might have just gone out there. Yeah, I think he just went off there. That's okay. What I'll do is I'll just share my screen instead. One second here. Gonna go here. He's gonna probably join like in 2 seconds, but here's this one here. So yeah, TNR Doors, they do industrial doors. This is one that we made for TNR a while back, I think, just in a couple months, but just kind of showcasing the power of their doors and some really cool stuff. And it has a kind of like a cool comic theme with some great effects and things like that. So it's just it's something that's different. It's something that not a lot of competitors do.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, for this one, the real strategy was kind of the one huge sales point for their doors is you can kind of hit them and then they'll bounce right back and you won't affect the door at all. So this one, we really wanted to kind of accentuate that and kind of make kind of a comic out of it and really have those little kind of pow things, which are really simple to do. And we just wanted like you can see, we just wanted videos of them going through the doors and it worked really well.
Yeah, and I think that if you're in like the space of like industrial doors, whether you have a building that you need to get doors on replaced or something like that, seeing something like this is definitely engageable, and it puts a cool little twist on letting people know the full power of your product, right, and what it can do for people.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And so, like we'll just breeze through a few here. I'll add myself to the stream.
Go ahead.
We got lots of examples. We'll put these in the comments, at least some of them. But you can see that virtually any business has something interesting about it. You just have to find that interesting thing. and who it's of interest to, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go through all of these particular ones. I do want to talk about a couple of things here. Number one is, we did touch on it a little bit, but if you've got your long form content, then you can slice and dice that stuff all day long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's an easy content calendar for you with the resonatable like video and stuff, right? So
yeah, totally. And if you're on a podcast or if you're doing a live stream and you've got a good moment, you have a little piece of paper there and just write down the approximate time that happened, then you'll have a little bit of a map you can go back to, or hand it off to somebody else to just quick create those cuts in something like even an Adobe Rush or whatever, right? Like I said. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some strategies for sharing when, I think it's inaccurate to say that let's make this go viral, right? That's something that you often hear. It's a bit of a joke, because that is easier said than done. Although virality is crafted, some people are better at it than others, and quite often organic virality is almost impossible, and it's impossible to predict for sure. Right?
Yeah, very random.
Yeah, there's been times where we'll put something up on Twitter, for example. One of our stories that we put on Twitter made the For You page on Twitter, and it just blew up one day, and it was like all hands on deck because you're trying to use engagement, you're trying to monitor the comments and everything like that, right? So it's definitely sporadic when organic content does go viral, but it's fun.
and what you want to do here. So here's a good example. So you may say, look, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I can't do it, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
An easy trick, and this is a bit of a play out of our playbook. Go to Reddit, search around. It might take a little bit for some advanced searches to find it. Find memes, or just Google and find memes that have gone viral maybe 6 to 12 months ago that are not at the top of the zeitgeist, right? They're not at the top of groupthink right at the moment. Or you could reach back further to a kind of classic meme and kind of revive that, right?
Yeah.
Understanding that different memes, like we said, different memes will resonate and themes with different people. So in this particular case, we were looking at a new mother or young mother segment with kids. It's a great meme, mom with friends and mom at home. I can attest to this one. This one my wife is like. But what we did was we actually did a very highly targeted audience that we boosted this to for a total of $90. And what ended up happening was, because it resonated with that audience and we boosted it, there is no call to action here. There's literally, it said, it's moms in a nutshell. So hardly any copy. By all rights, anybody in marketing and advertising would say, don't boost this. That's a waste. But the counter to that is that if we get into the organic, so what happened was the boosted post was boosted not directly to the page followers, but it was directed to their friends and their network.
Yep.
So we knew we had a built-in network of people that were similar but interested, right? And then what ended up happening is it started resonating, and those people started sharing it. And it's still to this day, I think this thing is 4 years old now. Yeah, 2017. Still to this day, we'll get 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 shares a week on a 4-year-old post. What happens with this is that it gets into the organic algorithm. People start commenting, and then what Facebook does, the organic algorithm says, we want to show this to all these people now organically, right? And we were able to build a new custom audience off of it. We increased the Facebook fans on the actual Facebook page by over 6,000 people during that time.
Yeah.
And the secondary offshoot is that for a period of time after this happens to your Facebook page, the organic algorithm is warmed up to you because it's saying you posted some good content, right? And then what you can do is you have an opportunity. So you should always have these planned out after the fact for 2 or 3 days after to really continue to get that engagement, continue that engagement. So
yeah, but exactly. When something gets going too, don't ignore it, or don't kind of put any effort into like making it I don't know, prolong the engagement on the content. You want to get in there, invite people to the page, comment on their comments, things like that.
Yeah, if you can, right?
For sure.
If you can. So, so what we ended up doing was making a social video explaining that case study from what we had done. So again, the consistent creation of content from your content and repurposing your content into several different platforms and several different formats as well. And I think one important thing we got to touch on as well, I think, before we kind of wrap it up here, is you can't just wholesale take one video and put it on all platforms and expect it to behave the same way.
No, you got to create content that's specific for the platform that you're putting it on. I mean, there's times where you're going to want to post the same video to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, but just know that people consume video on those platforms very differently than others, right? So you might have to tweak the video a little bit more. You might have to repost the video in a certain way. So definitely want to keep those in consideration.
Yeah, one thing that we're kind of talking about, so some like Instagram and Facebook, they usually watch the videos on mute, so you have to really pay attention to that kind of thing, stuff like that.
Yep, absolutely. So we talked a little bit about that. All right, guys. Well, I think we've run through the importance of social video with some examples. I think we went down a bit of a rabbit hole there a little bit.
Yeah, but it's some great stuff on creating, content that produces engagement, but also, creating an underlying strategy with your video, because I think a lot of the times people get overzealous and like, I'm just going to post a whole bunch of videos right now consecutively. And it's like, are you really planning out what you're putting in those videos? Are you really planning out the next steps that people want to take after they see those videos, right? And those are big things that people got to start thinking about.
This is something that May points out that's a very good point. Users aren't stupid, and they're typically on multiple platforms. You'll even see it on Twitter when a bad social media strategy comes out of copying and pasting the same response. Twitter tends to roast that pretty hard these days. You definitely don't want to have just, you don't want to look lazy, right? If you're doing that. So that's a very good point. It's a very good point.
Just ask yourself the question, what is someone coming to this page for? What is, if someone's going on your Twitter feed, what are they coming to my Twitter feed for? Quick info, quick updates. If they're going to Instagram, a little bit more details, right? So you got to ask yourself those questions too.
Yeah, I think the one thing to keep in mind from a high level, thank you, Pippa. And April's also saying it's true, they may unfollow you on platforms. It's people are ruthless, right? They don't care if you annoy them. And I think this is the final point I wanted to make is social media is not yours as a marketer. It's theirs as a consumer. Treat it that way, right? If you treat it that you're in someone else's space and act accordingly, I think you'll be a lot more successful, as opposed to thinking that you're broadcasting like you are on television, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
Cool. All righty, everybody. Well, it looks like it's going to be an absolutely miserable weekend up here in southern.
Yep.
Cold and rainy, but you know what? This happens every year. I can't wait for the last snowstorm when everyone's going to be crying out loud, because it happens literally every year.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I got my tires already off, but I'll cross my fingers.
I never put my tires on. Like, you're in lockdown.
That's true, right? So
me neither. I left them.
Yeah,
the amount of gas you're saving because of the lockdown is insane.
Oh yeah,
it's like, oh my god, $60 lasts me like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Well, this is
insane.
True. It's also like in Venice, right? For the first time in like 100 years, you could see the bottom of the Venice Canal.
Yeah, and like dolphins are coming back and stuff like that.
Well, the dolphins was fake, though. I heard.
Oh, was it? Was it debunked?
Yeah,
the fish were fake. Weren't fake.
Oh,
they were
of
fish.
Of course.
Dolphins in the Venice Canal.
Bottle bills just kind of swimming through.
Hey, they got me, so
that's that old meme of sharks and floods that always gets shared. Anyways.
Sure.
All right, everyone. You have a great weekend. We'll see you next week for episode 176 of Live at the Hive Digital Marketing from the Trenches. Same B time, same B channel. Take care and have a great